So just one or two more extra little tips, just useful things I've learned over the years before we finish on up. So Photoshop doesn't have the greatest of perspective tools. In fact, it doesn't have any, but the way I usually set up my perspective grids is, I guess I would just rough in what I think the perspective is. Something along these lines, then we can refine it a bit further up. So obviously the perspective horizon isn't going to be on this page. So I usually just use the pen tool, which will tell me where the horizon converges roughly, and then I'll bring up the rulers, Control R or view, show, view rulers, and then just drag in a horizon. And then if I want to create a perspective grid, maybe just a 2-point perspective grid. I would probably do something like this. And then either bring this to the point where I want to add the perspective lines. This might be to keep track of the general perspective or to build something on top of. But to keep track of that, you can put your guides outside of the canvas area. And you can also save your perspective lines. You could, if you wanted to, just with a small brush, line those and have them in there, or just use them as a path, and then I would generally hide the rulers and hide the guides, which is Control colon. And maybe just bring the path up every time I want to check it. Let's have a look at another couple of quick little tips. There's a look that I think sort of manga or anime that I used to like back in the day. Don't use it super often anymore, but at the end of an image, to give it a sort of a glowy feel, if you flatten the image from all the layers below, set that to hard light, then you generally need to lighten it. Adjust the levels a touch to give it a bit more contrast. And you sort of have to play around with these for each image. Sometimes you need a little push further, and sometimes you want to make it a little bit more subtle. Then you blur that layer. And sort of lower the opacity just a touch. From here you can just see it sort of punched the colors up a bit, but also if we zoom in, there's also sort of a blurred effect around the lines mostly, but also throughout the whole image, and it just gives it this sort of dreamy look. And yeah, occasionally I'll want to use that just to sort of give a different feel at the end of an image. Another thing that I've found useful over the years is if we want to make a sort of CRT TV effect, let's make a new layer out of this flattened image. And what you have to do is set the image mode to lab color. Doesn't work if you don't do lab color, you go into the channels, click on lightness, and you go into your filter gallery, halftone pattern. You can mess with the size a little bit, but you can see it's already looking like a kind of old school monitor. You can make the size lower or higher. If your file's quite small, you might need to up res a little bit, but let's do something like 2. Don't want to up the contrast too much, so I'm just going to keep the contrast to 0 and press OK. And if we go back to viewing the lab, you'll see we've got these kind of contrasty lines. It makes it look a bit like a TV screen. Maybe well, let's turn the image back, so there'll be certain things when we've got all of the layers selected. So in filter, for example, you'll notice you can't access the filter gallery. You'll need to go back to image mode, RGB color. Don't flatten that. You could potentially mess with the layer levels again, just to kind of lighten it up. Just play with it, see how you want it to look. Another sort of useful little extra technique, we did the chromatic aberration with lens correction earlier, but you can also do it if you double click in this area on the layers and say you've duplicated the layer. By the way, before we do this, then we'll say remove the channel. You can do it with any of these channels, but we'll remove one of the channels, press OK. And if we move the file sort of to the right or to the left, you'll notice we get that sort of lens distortion effect with the red and the green fringing. It's another quick and easy way to add that sort of chromatic aberration, which again pumps up that look of a TV CRT monitor.